My name is Alexandra Vance, and I was 28 years old the day my sister got married. They told me not to come. My mother said it would be too confusing, that I would only make things harder for everyone, but I showed up anyway. And the moment the groom saw me from across the garden, he stopped, went pale, walked straight toward me while the whole wedding watched, because the secret between us was something my sister had never known. And once he opened his mouth, there was no going back. My sister Alina was the golden one, the one whose life looked perfect from every angle, the one my parents spent years polishing for the world to admire. I was the complication they never knew how to explain, the sister who didn't fit the narrative, who worked too hard, stayed too quiet, and somehow still made them uncomfortable just by existing. I had been edged out of family events for years before the wedding invitations went out, but this time was different. This time, the exclusion felt final, like they were building a future that had no room for me in it. And the groom, he knew things about me that nobody else did, things that made his frozen stare across that garden mean more than shock. It meant fear. To understand why Ryan froze, you have to understand the version of me my family buried, the version they decided never existed. I was born first, 2 years before Alina, but in our house, birth order meant nothing. What mattered was that Alina had the smile that made people relax, the laugh that made people want to be near her. I had the quiet that made people uncomfortable, not because I was hostile, but because I watched too closely. My father, Richard, was a corporate attorney who measured success in billable hours and the silence of a well-managed home. My mother, Diane, ran the household like a public relations campaign. Every family outing was a photo op. Every holiday card was a strategic message, and every achievement of mine was carefully edited before it reached the outside world. I learned early that my academic awards made for bad small talk. When I won the state debate championship at 16, my mother told me not to mention it at dinner because Alina had just been cast in the school play. When I got my first full scholarship offer, my father asked if I was sure the university was prestigious enough for him to bring up at his firm. Alina never had to worry about those calculations. She was effortless, she was the center, and I learned to orbit. By the time I finished law school, the distance between us had become geographic and emotional. I took a job in Washington, working in federal litigation. Alina stayed local, teaching elementary school, dating Ryan Caldwell, a landscape architect who had the kind of easy confidence that comes from never being doubted. Ryan and I met twice before the wedding, once at a family barbecue, where he spent most of the conversation asking about my work. He seemed genuinely interested, which surprised me. Most people in my family's orbit asked about my job the way you ask about a stranger's surgery, polite, but with a clear desire to change the subject. The second time was a year later. My car broke down outside a coffee shop 2 blocks from my apartment in Washington. Ryan happened to be in town for a conference. He saw me on the sidewalk, hood up, phone dead. He stopped. That interaction lasted 45 minutes. He helped me call a tow truck, bought me coffee while we waited, and we talked about everything except Alina. He told me about a project he was designing. I told him about a case I was building. It was comfortable, too comfortable. I didn't tell anyone about that meeting, not because anything inappropriate happened, but because I knew how it would sound, how easily it could be twisted, how my mother would turn it into evidence that I was trying to undermine Alina's happiness. But something shifted in me that afternoon. Ryan looked at me differently than anyone in my family ever had. He didn't see a complication. He saw someone worth listening to. 3 months later, Alina called to tell me she was engaged. Her voice was bright, expectant. She wanted me to be her maid of honor. I said yes before I could think. Then I waited for the inevitable revision. It came 2 days later. My mother called. She said Alina had decided on a smaller wedding party, just her 2 closest friends from college. It would be simpler, less stressful. She said it with such practiced sympathy that I almost believed her. I asked if Alina had told her to say that. She paused. Then she said, "You know how weddings are, it's her day." That was the first cut. The invitations arrived a month later. Mine came addressed to my apartment, but the return address was my parents' house. Inside, a handwritten note from Alina, "I hope you can make it. I know you're busy." No mention of the conversation. No acknowledgement that she had unasked me. just a generic invitation that felt like an afterthought. I RSVP'd yes. I didn't know then how much that decision would cost. In the months leading up to the wedding, I noticed the pattern sharpen. Family dinners I wasn't invited to, weekend trips I learned about through Instagram, a bachelorette party in Nashville that I heard about from a cousin who assumed I already knew. My mother's calls became shorter. My father's emails stopped entirely. Alina's texts grew more distant, more formal, until they were nothing but logistics. When I asked if she needed help with anything, she said she had it covered. But I still had Ryan's number. From the tow truck incident, we had exchanged contact information for the towing company paperwork. I never used it. I never planned to. Then, 3 weeks before the wedding, my mother called with the real news. She said Alina had decided to have a private ceremony, just immediate family, no plus ones, no extended guests. She said it in the same tone she used for financial planning, measured, final, unapologetic. I asked if I was considered immediate family. There was a pause long enough to answer the question. She said, "You're her sister, of course you're invited, but Alina thinks it would be better if you came alone, and maybe sat in the back." Sat in the back, as if I were a distant cousin, as if I hadn't been replaced. I didn't argue, I didn't cry, I just said okay and hung up, but something in me hardened that night. I started thinking about the 45 minutes I had spent with Ryan, the way he looked at me, the things he said that he never repeated to Alina. I started wondering if the secret I was carrying was heavier than I realized. The wedding was at a vineyard in Virginia, mid-October, gold leaves and white tents and strings of lights that made everything look soft. I drove down alone, parked at the bottom of the hill where the other cars were, watched guests in pastel dresses and linen suits walk past me toward the ceremony site. My mother had told me to arrive after the processional, find a seat near the back, and leave before the reception. She said it would be easier for everyone. She didn't say easier for whom. I waited until I heard the music start. The string quartet, the swell of the first chords. I walked up the hill in heels that were already hurting, past guests who smiled politely at a stranger, past the usher who didn't recognize me as the sister. I found a seat in the last row, on the end near the aisle. And then the ceremony began. Alina walked down the aisle in white lace, radiant, everything she was supposed to be. Ryan stood at the altar, facing her, composed. He didn't see me at first. But when the officiant asked if anyone objected, if anyone had reason these two should not be joined, I saw his eyes scan the crowd. Just a quick sweep, reflex. They landed on me. And that's when he froze. Not a flinch, not a double take. A full visible stop that lasted longer than it should have. His face drained of color. His hands, holding Alina's, went still. Alina turned to follow his gaze. She saw me. Her expression flickered just for a second into something I had never seen on her face before. Not anger, not surprise, fear. And in that moment, I knew that whatever secret Ryan and I shared, she already suspected something. And whatever happened next would change all three of us forever. Ryan didn't say "I do," he said my name. The officiant paused, the guests shifted. Alina's smile froze into something hollow. And Ryan, still holding her hands, turned his head toward the back row and looked at me like I was the only person in that vineyard. Someone whispered, "A cousin." My mother turned around and saw me. Her face went through 3 expressions in 2 seconds. Shock, disbelief, then a cold, organizing fury that I had seen only once before, the day I told her I was moving to Washington. Ryan let go of Alina's hands. He stepped down from the altar. The flower girl dropped her basket. Alina's mother gasped. Ryan walked up the aisle, past the first row, past the second, past the third, and stopped 2 feet in front of me. He said, "I didn't think you would come." I said, "I know." He said, "I need to talk to you, alone, right now." The guests were no longer pretending not to stare. My mother was on her feet. Alina was standing at the altar alone, her bouquet trembling in her grip. The officiant asked if there was a problem. My father, for the first time in memory, said nothing. I stood up. I followed Ryan behind the main tent, past the catering staff, past a row of hedges that separated the ceremony space from a small stone patio. We were out of sight but not out of earshot. I could hear the crowd murmuring. I could hear my mother's voice rising. Ryan turned to face me. He looked thinner than he had at the coffee shop. His hands were shaking. He said, "Alex, I have to tell her. I can't marry her with this between us." I said, "With what between us, Ryan? You need to be specific, because I've been carrying this alone for a year, and I don't know what you've told yourself to make it bearable." He looked down, then he looked back up. "The night before I proposed to Alina, I almost called you. I had the phone in my hand. I wanted to ask if you would give me permission to move on. But I didn't. I proposed anyway, and I've been lying to her every day since." "That's not the secret, Ryan. That's guilt. The secret is what happened in Washington." He went pale again, the same color as when he saw me in the pew. "I know," he said, "and she doesn't." I heard footsteps behind me. Alina, her voice low and hard, the voice she used when she was about to break something. "Why don't you both tell me what happened in Washington?" We turned. She was standing at the edge of the patio, veil pushed back, bouquet gone. Her makeup was still perfect. Her eyes were not. Ryan started to speak. I stopped him. "Let me," I said. "You've had long enough to decide how to frame it." I looked at my sister, the sister who had uninvited me to her wedding, the sister who had spent our entire lives standing in the light while I stood in the shadow, the sister who had no idea she was standing on top of a lie that could bury everything. "Ryan and I met 2 years before you introduced him to the family, not at a conference, not through friends. I was handling a case in Richmond. Ryan was the landscape architect for the plaintiff's property. We worked together for 6 weeks. We had dinner together 4 times. On the 5th time, he kissed me, and I let him." Alina's breath caught. She looked at Ryan. He didn't deny it. "That was before you," I said. "Way before. He didn't know you existed. I didn't either. It ended when the case settled. We went our separate ways. I never told anyone. Not Mom, not Dad, not any of the cousins, because it didn't matter. It was a moment. It was over." Alina's voice cracked. "Then why didn't you warn me? Why didn't you tell me when I brought him home?" "Because I didn't recognize him. He had a beard back then, different name on the filings. And when I saw him at your engagement party, it was too late. You were already in love. I convinced myself it was better to stay quiet, that I was protecting you." Ryan stepped forward. "That's not the whole truth, Alina, and you deserve to hear it." Alina turned on him. "You kissed my sister, before me, that's bad enough. What else could there possibly be?" Ryan looked at me. The decision was mine, whether to finish it or let him fight alone. I realized then that I hadn't come to the wedding to stop it. I had come to make sure the truth stood a chance. So I told her. "He didn't just kiss me, Alina. We shared a night, one night, in a hotel in Washington, when his conference overlapped with my trial. He told me he had a girlfriend back home, but he didn't tell me her name was my sister. I found out 3 months later when you sent me your engagement photo." Alina's legs gave way. She grabbed the stone wall. The silence between us was the loudest thing I had ever heard. "You slept with my fiancé," she whispered, "and you came to my wedding. I came to make sure you knew before it was too late, because if I stayed silent, you would marry a man who built his life with you on a foundation he never cleaned up. That's not love, that's architecture." Ryan stood frozen. Alina looked at him with new eyes. "Did you love her?" she asked. He didn't answer. The pause lasted 3 seconds. That was enough. I turned and walked back toward the parking lot. I had done what I came to do, but I had not yet learned the one detail that would change everything, the secret I still didn't know about myself. Because as I reached my car, Ryan broke away from Alina and ran after me. He grabbed my arm and said something that stopped me cold. "The night in Washington, it wasn't one night, it was 3 weekends. And I have texts, thousands of them, and your sister doesn't know that you were the one who ended it. She doesn't know that when you broke it off, you told me you were pregnant." I looked at Ryan and knew he wasn't lying, but I also knew he had the story wrong. "I never told you I was pregnant," I said. "I told you I thought I might be. There's a difference." Ryan's face twisted. "You said you were, you said you took a test, you said you didn't know what to do." I said I took a test. And it was negative. I drove to your hotel to tell you in person that we were safe, but you had already left. You checked out early. You left a note saying you couldn't do this anymore, that you had met someone. That someone was Alina." He stepped back like I had hit him. "That's not how I remember it." "Of course it isn't. You remember what you needed to remember to feel justified. But I have the test results in my medical records. I have the hotel receipt. I have the note you left at the front desk. I kept everything." Alina had followed us. She was standing 10 feet away, arms crossed, face unreadable. "He left a note," she said. "Handwritten, on hotel stationery. It said, 'I met someone who makes me want to be the man I told you I was. I hope you find that too.' I kept it because I thought it was beautiful at the time. Now I know it was just cowardice dressed up as poetry." Ryan's voice dropped. "You kept the note." "Because I thought it was the last honest thing you ever said to me. Turns out it was just the last thing you said before you started lying to everyone, including yourself." Alina walked between us. She looked at Ryan with something colder than anger. She looked at him like he was a stranger. "Did you love her? Answer me, not the polite version, the truth." Ryan's silence was the only answer he had left. "I thought so," Alina said. She turned to me. "And you came here to destroy my wedding, admit it." I shook my head. "I came to stop you from making a mistake I saw coming from a mile away. You uninvited me, you put me in the back row, you treated me like a threat. And I needed to know why, now I do, because you knew something was wrong, you just didn't want to face it." Alina's composure cracked, tears, then rage. "I asked you to sit in the back because Mom said you would cause a scene. She said you were jealous, that you always had been, that you couldn't stand to see me happy. Mom lied to you, again, and you believed her, because it was easier than asking why the sister who never competed with you suddenly needed to be managed." We stood there, the three of us, in the cold October air, while 100 guests waited for a wedding that was not happening. Then the cavalry arrived. My mother came around the hedge like she owned the property. My father followed, grim-faced. 2 cousins trailed behind, phones out, already recording. "Alexandra, you need to leave, now." I looked at my mother. "Or what, Mom? You'll uninvite me again." "Don't be clever, it doesn't suit you." "Neither does being your daughter, but here we are." Alina spoke before my mother could respond. "She told me everything, Mom, about Ryan, about Washington, about the weekend they spent together." My mother's face went through a calculation that took less than a second. Deny, deflect, attack. "That was years ago, before you, it's irrelevant." "It's not irrelevant because he didn't tell me, and neither did she, and you knew, didn't you?" The silence that followed was louder than any confession. "You knew," Alina repeated. "You knew Ryan had a history with Alex, and you didn't tell me. You made sure she was uninvited so she couldn't tell me herself." My mother's voice was ice. "I was protecting you." "From what? The truth?" "From her. She has always been jealous of you, trying to take what you have. First your scholarship to the same school, then your internship, now your fiancé. It's a pattern, Alina. I was trying to break it." I laughed, not a happy laugh. The kind that comes when you finally hear the shape of the lie you've been living in. "The scholarship I turned down because you told me it would embarrass Alina if we were in the same program. The internship I recommended Alina for because she was struggling to find a position. So she got mine. And Ryan, I met him first. I let him go. I didn't take anything from anyone." My father finally spoke. "That's enough, all of you, we are not doing this here." "Where should we do it, Dad? In a conference room with a mediator, because that's where this is headed." Ryan dropped to his knees, not dramatically. He just folded, like a building with the wrong foundation. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'm sorry to both of you. I should have told Alina. I should have told Alex I was still in love with her. I should have called off the engagement the moment I realized I was marrying the wrong sister." Alina's face went white. "Excuse me." Ryan looked up at her. "I love you, Alina, but I loved her first, and I never stopped. I thought I could bury it. I thought if I married you, built a life with you, the feeling would fade. But when I saw her sitting in that back row, I knew I was lying to myself." Elena stepped back, then she slapped him. Hard, the sound echoed off the stone patio. You loved her first, then why did you propose to me? Because you were safe. You were the daughter my parents wanted, the fiancé my friends approved of, the life I was supposed to want. Alex was complicated, she was messy, she was a risk, and I was too afraid to take it. I felt something break inside me, not sadness, relief. The truth was finally out, and it was ugly, but it was real. Elena turned to me. You win, you always win. Even when you lose, you win, because he loved you, and now everyone knows. That's not winning, Elena. That's collateral damage. I didn't come here to win. I came here to stop losing pieces of myself. My mother grabbed Elena's arm. We're leaving, all of us. This wedding is canceled. There will be no announcement. We will handle this privately. But Ryan wasn't finished. He stood up, wiped his face, and looked at my mother. Actually, there's one more thing, and everyone needs to hear it. He pulled out his phone, opened a folder, held it up so we could all see. These are messages between your husband and me. From 6 months ago. He knew about Alex and me. He knew before I proposed. And he told me to keep it from Elena because the family reputation couldn't survive a scandal like that. My father's face went gray. Those are private conversations. Those are blackmail, Richard. You threatened to ruin my business if I told Elena the truth. You said I could marry her as long as I never mentioned Alex. You said it would be easier for everyone if I just forgot. Elena looked at our father. Is that true? He didn't answer. He didn't need to. You made my fiancé lie to me for a year because you were afraid of what people would think. My mother tried to speak. Elena cut her off. No, you don't get to talk. You both made choices that destroyed my relationship before it started. You treated Alex like a threat because you knew the truth would come out eventually. You controlled everything to protect your image. And now there's nothing left to protect. She looked at Ryan. I never want to see you again, I mean it. If I see you on the street, I will cross the road. If I hear your name, I will walk out of the room. She looked at me. And you, I don't know if I can forgive you, but I know you were braver than I was. You came to my wedding knowing this would happen. I hid from it, so maybe I'm the one who owes you an apology. She walked away, back toward the tent, toward the guests who were now standing, confused, phones out, 100 different stories already forming. My mother followed her. My father stood alone, staring at his shoes. Ryan looked at me. I'm sorry for all of it. Sorry doesn't rebuild trust. Sorry doesn't unring the bell, but it's a start. I turned and walked to my car. This time, no one followed me. But as I opened the door, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. It read, "You don't know the whole story. Meet me at the diner on Route 29 in 1 hour. Come alone. EM." I didn't know who EM was, but I knew one thing for certain. The wedding was over, but the secrets were not. The biggest one was still buried, and someone was about to dig it up. The diner was nearly empty, a single booth in the back, and sitting in it, a woman I had not seen in 10 years. Evelyn Mercer, my mother's mother, the woman who stopped speaking to her daughter the year I turned 8. She was older, grayer, but her eyes were the same sharp blue that had always made me feel like she could see straight through to the bone. "Sit down, Alexandra, you have questions." I sat, the waitress came. Evelyn ordered coffee, I ordered nothing. "You sent that text." I did. I watched the whole thing from the parking lot. I drove 3 hours when I heard Elena was getting married. I knew it would go badly. Your mother never changes. You know what happened tonight. I know everything that happened in your family. That's why I stopped speaking to your mother. She was never honest with anyone, not even herself. I leaned forward. What do you mean by that? Evelyn set her coffee down. She looked at me with something close to pity. Your father is not Richard Vance. The words landed like stones in still water. I didn't understand them at first. They didn't fit the map of my life. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the summer of 1991. Your mother had an affair with a man named David Holloway. He was a research scientist. Married. She got pregnant with you. Richard agreed to raise you as his own in exchange for your mother never speaking about it. But he never forgave her. He never forgave you. David Holloway, the same last name as Alina's mother, Audrey Holloway. David Holloway is Alina's mother's brother. He's Audrey's uncle. He died in a car accident when you were 3. Your mother never told you because it would have unraveled everything. My hands were shaking. Ryan knew this. Ryan found out 6 months ago. He was researching Alina's family tree for a wedding gift. He found a birth certificate with the wrong father. He confronted your mother. She told him everything. Then she told Richard. And Richard did what he always does. He tried to control the narrative. That's why Ryan froze when he saw me, not because of the affair. No, the affair was collateral. He froze because he realized he was about to marry his biological cousin. The air left my lungs. I stared at her. We're cousins. Alina and I are half-cousins. Her mother's father and my biological father are brothers. Which means your mother married her husband's brother-in-law's daughter's fiancé. It's a small world, but your mother made it smaller by keeping secrets. Does Alina know? She does now. I told her before I texted you. She's at her apartment. Alone. She asked me to give you this. Evelyn slid an envelope across the table. My name on it. Alina's handwriting. I opened it. A single sheet of paper. Alex, I always knew there was something wrong. I just didn't know what. Now I do. And I understand now why you always felt like you didn't belong, because you didn't. Not because of anything you did, but because our parents built a house on a lie. I'm sorry, for the wedding, for the years I took for granted, for being the golden child while you carried the weight. I don't know how to fix this, but I want to try, if you'll let me. Alina. I folded the letter, put it in my pocket. Where is she now? At her apartment, packing. She gave Ryan back the ring. She's moving to Portland next week. New job, new city. She wants to start over. And my parents. Your mother is at home, drinking. Your father is at his office, already spinning the story. He'll tell people the wedding was canceled due to irreconcilable differences between the families. He'll never admit the truth. What about Ryan? He left the vineyard hours ago. No one knows where, but I suspect he'll surface eventually. He has a lot to answer for, but that's not your problem anymore. I sat back, the diner light hummed, the coffee grew cold. One more thing, Evelyn said. David Holloway left you something in his will, a trust fund. He set it up before he died, with instructions to release it when you turned 30. Your mother and Richard have been managing it. They used the interest for Alina's education. They told the trustee you had declined it. They stole from me. They stole your inheritance. Yes, I have the documents, the original will, the fund statements, enough to press charges if you want to. I didn't answer right away. I thought about the years of exclusion, the dinners I wasn't invited to, the career my parents never acknowledged, the sister who had everything and the secret that made it all a lie. I don't want to press charges. I want my money, and I want them to know I know. Evelyn nodded. That's what I expected you to say. You were always the strong one. I wasn't strong. I was surviving. There's a difference. You're still here. That's not nothing. We sat in silence for a long time. Then I stood up. Thank you, Evelyn, for telling me the truth. Don't thank me. I should have told you years ago. I was too afraid of your mother. I won't make that mistake again. I walked out of the diner into the cold October night. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I'm sorry for everything. I hope you find what you're looking for. R. I deleted it without responding. I drove home, not to my apartment, to a town I had never visited, the address on David Holloway's will, a small house on the coast of Maine, where my biological father had lived before he died. I pulled into the driveway at 3 in the morning. The house was dark, untouched. A for sale sign stood in the yard. I sat in the car and stared at it. The house of a man I would never meet. The father who had left me a legacy I never knew existed. The truth that had been buried for 30 years. I stepped out, walked to the front door. The key from Evelyn's envelope fit the lock. Inside, the house smelled of salt air and old wood. Bookshelves lined the walls. Photographs of mountains and coastlines, a desk with papers spread across it, and on top a handwritten envelope for Alexandra. I opened it, a letter dated the year I was born. Dear Alexandra, if you are reading this, it means I am gone. I am sorry I never got to hold you. I am sorry your mother chose to hide you from me, but I want you to know that you were wanted. Not as a secret, as a daughter, I left you this house. I left you proof of who you are. Use it however you see fit. But never forget, you were never the complication. You were the truth they couldn't face. Be brave, live honestly. Your father, David. I sat down on the floor of that empty house, and for the first time in 30 years I cried, not from grief, from relief, because the secret I had carried my whole life was not my shame, it was theirs, and now it was finally mine to let go. That was 6 months ago. The house is mine now. I live here. I practice law remotely. I have not spoken to Richard or Diane since that night. Elena called 3 weeks after Portland. We talk every Sunday. It's slow, it hurts, but it's real. And Ryan, he moved to Chicago. I hear he started therapy. I don't know if he's better. I don't need to. Some secrets destroy you. Some secrets free you. And some secrets, once told, just let you start over. I think about that night at the vineyard a lot. Not because I miss it, because it taught me something I never learned in courtrooms or law books. Families keep secrets for the same reason people bury things in the backyard. They believe if no one sees it, it will stop being real. But buried things have a way of growing roots. They spread underground. They crack foundations. And eventually something always pushes through the surface. My mother believed she was protecting her family by hiding the truth. My father believed he was preserving his reputation. Ryan believed he could build a future on a lie he never cleaned up, and I believed that silence was the price of belonging. We were all wrong. The wedding was canceled, the engagement ended, my parents' marriage fractured beyond repair. My mother filed for divorce 3 months later, not because she wanted to, but because my father finally stopped pretending. The firm quietly distanced itself. The house went on the market. The story never made the news, but everyone who mattered knew. Elena and I are still rebuilding. It's not easy. Some conversations are still too heavy. Some Sundays she calls and we just sit in silence for a minute before we speak. But that silence is different now. It's not avoidance. It's breathing room. She sent me a photo last week. A small apartment in Portland with a bookshelf she built herself. Crooked, painted blue. She said it was the first thing she ever built that was entirely hers. I told her it was beautiful. Ryan checked himself into a program. He sent a letter 6 weeks later, not an apology, a confession. He wrote that he had spent his whole life doing what other people expected and never learned how to want anything honestly. He said he was trying to learn. I hope he does, but I don't need to watch. The house in Maine is mine now. I painted the front door yellow. I don't know why, it just felt right. I work from the desk that belonged to a man I never met. I have his letters, his photographs, his handwriting. I know where I come from now. Not the version my mother curated, the version that was always true. Sometimes people ask me if I regret going to that wedding. If I could go back, would I stay home and let Elena marry a man who carried a secret big enough to destroy her anyway? I tell them the same thing every time. Secrets don't get lighter with time, they get heavier, and the only way to stop carrying them is to put them down. The wedding was never the point. The point was that I finally stopped letting other people decide what version of my life I was allowed to live. I showed up, I spoke the truth, and I walked away. That is not revenge, that is freedom. If this story stayed with you, I hope it reminds you that blood does not give anyone unlimited access to your peace. You are allowed to leave. You are allowed to tell the truth. And you are allowed to start over as many times as it takes to live honestly. If you are carrying a secret that is not yours to carry, I hope you find the courage to set it down. And if you have ever been made to feel like the complication in someone else's story, I hope you remember this. You were never the complication. You were the truth they could not face. Thank you for listening to my story. If it meant something to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more stories that explore the weight of family secrets and the cost of silence, subscribe now. Because the truth always finds a way to be heard.